Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bonjour Halloween Horror Club. Today we are talking about a movie that came out this year, last year if you're nasty, or saw it when it was premiered at, I think, Fantastic Fest. And if you've seen the film, you may be wondering to yourself why I chose this for a Halloween Horror Club, seeing as it's not really a horror movie by most metrics. And the reason is I hadn't seen it and I thought it was. So I guess that's on me, but I'm still going to do it because I've watched it twice now and I really want to talk about it. I have a lot of thoughts. So we are reviewing, we are discussing, we are diving deep into the depths of freaky tales. And we are back at the bar. I bet you thought I was gonna have a different kind of horror-related tie, but no, I don't have the money for all kinds of fun little outfits. So the production value is what it is, and we're just gonna work with it. If you would like to see me wear more interesting fun ties, or do some fun outfits, or just be able to do more with these videos, please support me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/JohnBonjour. But we are here to make a drink. And the drink that I have come up with is a psychotic idea that if it doesn't work, I have a backup that's very safe and very simple. So I was thinking about Freaky Tales. It's a weird movie. It's a strange, odd collection of tastes, flavors, feelings. I want to bring that odd collection into this. So I'm going to be making a version of a martini. I'm going to be making a kind of martini, but it's going to be gin, and it's going to be pickle juice, and it's going to have white wine because I didn't have any dry vermouth. So there's a 60-40 chance this drink is dog shit, and I will not tell you that. But we are making what I'm going to be calling green lightning, or possibly freaky green lightning. Freaky green lightning. We're making the freaky green lightning. Starting with our most insane ingredient, I'm just gonna go for pickle juice, and I don't know how this is gonna go. I didn't even think through how I was gonna get this. That honestly poured better than I thought it was going to. So we have our pickle juice. I really need a bar section. I should have set this up differently, but I didn't. So I'm just gonna pour this into our stirring glass here. Yeah, perfect. Yes, very, very dilly. Got mad dill for a little Tanqueray, a little gin. These won't all be gin drinks and they won't all be in coupe glasses, but they just happen to work out that way. So we're gonna go for it. Whoop, beep. Crushed it. All right. I don't know how to do this on camera, so we're just gonna get like a bar spoon's worth of what should be dry vermouth, but is gonna be white wine. I also have some sugar if that is necessary. Oh God. We can fix this. I'm gonna get a little sugar, just a tiny little bit. Okay, that is significantly better. It's pickly as hell. I'll tell you what. That's not bad, actually. It's really pickly, but the gin is starting to come through. Needs something. Give me a minute. Okay, so I looked in my bar, and I've got some orange bitters. I'm gonna do the faintest dash of orange bitters just to bring a little depth to the drink. I want to get something to kind of cut down on the tart sharpness. So we'll see how this goes. Okay. Give that a shot. Yeah, there it is. That kicks ass. That's actually great. Also, it's sort of diluting a little with the water, which I think is good. I'm gonna pour this out and we will go back to doing the video because I can't believe that's actually a pretty good drink. And there you have it, the freaky green lightning martini. And just like that, we are back from the bar, ready to talk about freaky tales with an exceptionally weird drink. So, the movie was directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, the people also behind Captain Marvel, which is the thing I did not know. Didn't know this was a directing team. Apparently they are. They've done a lot of different projects together, which I think is wonderful. It is the story of Oakland, California in 1987. It is absolutely an anthology film around the city, centered around the general theme of underdogs and green lightning. And it is a strange film. There was so much I didn't know about it. All I knew was that Pedro Pascal was in it and that it was a horror movie. And one of those things is about 90% untrue. So We were going in blind to this. I didn't know what to expect. And just as a kind of backup, a little bit of backstory, I had watched this movie because I knew that we were going to do it. I watched it after I watched the stuff. I watched it in one of the most recent terrible weeks of my life. My work, my other job that does pay me significantly more than this job does, and by that I mean almost at all, was not my favorite in the moment. We were having a pretty rough go. It was just a bad week. A lot of life stuff happened, and I was like bound and determined to watch this movie, and I watched it. I didn't really like it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like it. I thought it was grating. I found it to be a little disappointing. The fact that it wasn't a horror movie was a shock, and not in the good way for me. I wrote in my Letterboxd review that I could see myself coming back to this at some point and really liking it. But for the moment, it just doesn't really do that much for me. And I was kind of questioning whether or not I should even do it for this series, because it didn't really make sense to me to do a Halloween Horror Club episode on a not really horror movie that I also didn't like. That collection seemed like it would really hit the brakes on what I'm trying to do with this series. Not necessarily that I have to love all of these movies, nor do they have to be balls out all the way horror every time. But I want it to be one of the two. I want it to be either a horror movie that I didn't particularly like, or a movie that I really like that isn't necessarily a horror movie, but could, by some metric, fit into that genre. You know that something happened because you're watching this video about Freaky Tales, the movie I just told you I wasn't going to review for this exact video. So what happened is the week got a lot better. My life turned a lot of good directions. Everything kind of got sorted out. We had some tough conversations that ended up working out a lot of really important things. And so I was in a much, much, much better headspace, and I kept thinking about this movie. It kept coming back to my mind, going like, just gnawing at the back of my head of like, something is wrong about my opinion of the movie. Something felt not right about it. I didn't feel right about, not that I didn't like it, I was very open to not liking it, but I didn't feel right about the chance that I gave it. I think I kind of shut it down and didn't really give it the opportunity any movie deserves. 7:30 in the morning, I was like, you know what? I know I'm gonna have to record a video today, so I'm gonna try Freaky Tales again, and if that doesn't work, I don't know what we're gonna do. Popped it in, and by in I mean turned it on HBO Max, although there is a Blu-ray, and I am thinking about getting it, but I popped it in, and I'll tell you what, an hour and 40 minutes later, I really like this movie. I don't think it's perfect, and we'll get into a lot of my thoughts on it throughout the rest of the video, but I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think I clicked into what it was doing, what it was trying to be, and I think it's well worth your time. So if you haven't seen Freaky Tales, give it a shot, and give it an actual shot, unlike me, because it is a really fun movie. The story, or stories, given that it's an anthology, go as follows. The first chapter centers around this group of punk rock anarchist pacifists, essentially, who are terrorized by these neo-Nazis in 1987. Oh, that's the other thing. The whole movie takes place in 1987 in the collection of a couple of months, most of it within 1 or 2 nights. But the first chapter is about these punk kids taking on these Nazis, and spoilers, I guess, for the movie, kicking their ass so hard, it's incredible. And we'll dive into a lot of the specifics later. The second story follows this upcoming rap group Danger Zone, which is these 2 women who are working at a retail job, trying to make it in the arts, and they get sucked into this whole rap battle thing with the person who is supposed to be like the big famous local rapper at the time. And that's sort of the story of that one. They go on stage, they succeed in their rap battle, it becomes this wholesome, very kind thing, even though a lot of the things that they're rapping about are horrendous and all that. Anyway, the third story is where Pedro Pascal is finally introduced, although we see him earlier in the movie, but it's where his story is introduced. We learn that he is essentially a bruiser for the guy, who is just this big crime boss kind of guy. We'll find out who he is later. He goes into this video store, finds this backroom gambling ring, bruises up a guy, breaks a guy's finger, leaves, and then sits in the car with his pregnant wife, who is then, they are attacked by somebody who he had wronged before. He had killed this kid's dad, and the kid is now back for revenge. The guy kills his pregnant wife, and Pedro Pascal has to go on this soul search journey to decide to live again. He learns that his daughter is still alive, they saved her life, and he has to go fight another day, and that's kind of that story. And then the fourth one is the one that kind of brings some of these together. It's the legend of Sleepy Floyd, who is a basketball player who we learned that the guy, the big head crime boss, is actually one of the police He may be the captain, it's kind of unclear, played by Ben Mendelsohn, who is also the dad of one of the Nazis, so that's how that kind of wraps together. But his next big job is that he's going to be robbing all the basketball players' houses while they're playing the game. One of them goes awry, that's Sleepy Floyd. Sleepy Floyd is one of the basketball players. His family goes home, they run into the people robbing them, get killed, and then he goes home, learns about all of this, goes on a revenge spree, killing all of the Nazis and Ben Mendelsohn eventually, and freeing Pedro Pascal, who had his daughter held captive by Ben Mendelsohn, and Pedro Pascal walks free to be a dad another day. Sleepy Floyd has gotten his revenge, and he heads home. Everyone overcomes their trauma, everyone overcomes their hardship, everyone is an underdog learning to rise up. That's kind of the core central theme of the movie. Also with this overarching theme of some sort of strange ethereal power that shows up as a green glow or green lightning. And that is the movie Freaky Tales at its very, very basest. But I wanted to give you all of that information in case you haven't seen it, because it is important to the film overall. It is a valuable piece of information, and I'm going to be just kind of digging into little bits and pieces throughout, and I wanted you to know sort of what the movie was if you haven't seen it. I do still recommend checking it out, even if you haven't seen it and heard all of that. I think it is a very good time if you're in the headspace for it. It is an odd movie, and I think we should just dive into the things that really do work about it, then we'll get to a couple of things that don't. We'll get to my favorite moment. You know how these things work. You watch the stuff video. The things that work about Freaky Tales. Most importantly, there is a rampant creativity to this film that I find endlessly endearing. A lot of the time it works, 98% of the time it works. A couple of the times there are things that they do that don't 100% work, and I think that's perfectly fine because they're taking a lot of crazy, weird shots. In a lot of ways it kind of feels like Scott Pilgrim. There's intermixed animation with live action, and not in like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of way, but in like a little sketchy animations, especially in the first segment. There's little sketchy animations that kind of describe like show somebody's dream as they're describing it. And paired with that in the first segment, you have visual sound effects as if it was a comic book. You have heightened kind of gore practical effects. Some of them are digital effects, and I think that's where it doesn't necessarily play. They change aspect ratios. There's moments where you see the grain of a VHS, and that sort of fades in and out toward the third segment. There's all kinds of very, very strange things. Also, I think maybe the strangest choice creatively that they make in the movie, and the thing that I think pays off the most, Sleepy Floyd segment, most of his story is just him walking through a house, annihilating Nazis and crooked cops, and just murdering the holy hell out of a lot of people. But the thing that I think sets it over the edge is that it's paired to 3 different songs, and there's no transition. It's just like play through one song, fade into the next song, fade into the last song. The way that this plays is like, it's like a track list where it was like the scene almost feels like it's going on for too long, because you're used to these kinds of things in, say, perfect example, James Gunn's Superman, when Mr. Terrific has his very cool action sequence set to a song. The song is playing, the action sequence is happening, and as both start to ramp down, they kind of ramp each other down. And in this, the song is playing, For Whom the Bell Tolls is playing, and he's going around killing people, and For Whom the Bell Tolls starts to kind of fade out, and he just keeps going, and it just keeps being an action sequence, and then another song starts to come in, and the action is kind of paired to that song, which is really fun. Like it matches beat for beat in a Baby Driver-ish kind of way. There's a lot happening in this movie, not to mention there's the green lightning happening. Green lightning. At one point, a bus lights up green and flies into the sky. Like, it's a very strange movie. It's a very ADHD feeling movie, and not in like a Spider-Verse-y kind of way, or like how I assume the Minecraft movie is, where it's just jumping from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. It just is a lot of ideas. This movie is so many ideas all collected into one. And I think for the most part, that is genuinely a positive of the movie. There are so many ideas, and it can be a little overwhelming, but also you're fully never bored, and the number of crazy creative ideas kind of ties the movie together in a cohesive way that a lot of anthology movies are not able to do. Because usually in an anthology, you have completely separate stories that have nothing to do with each other, and you have to choose to engage with each one on their own level. Where this has an overarching vibe and tone, it just shifts a little for each story, and they run into each other, they merge a little bit. So there is a trick-or-treat aspect of that. But even outside of that, just having the core tone feel the same and then applying that to different situations, different moments, different stories, I think that works really well. And I think that's a very fun way to make an anthology movie that doesn't feel like an anthology movie. It doesn't have the pitfalls of the anthology movies. Part of setting that tone also comes from the very beginning. It is an 80s pastiche kind of movie, but it's not just that. It doesn't feel cheaply that. It doesn't feel like it's trying to cash in on some nostalgia. It really does feel like it is trying to create a unique tone specific to this movie, even if it is pulling from a lot of directions that we've already seen. I think part of setting that up is they have this opening crawl and it is read out loud. It's funny as it's written, but the funniest part about it is that it's read wrong. Like, it is different from the words that he's saying, which I think is so beautiful. It would not be hard to make it match what he said, and that would be funny in its own way. But having it say something like, I don't remember the exact example, but something along the lines of, there are very strange events occurring, and having the guy read it out as like, there's some freaky shit happening out here, inherently funny, and also sets the tone for what you should be expecting from this, how seriously we should be taking this movie. I appreciate a film with an overture, I guess is what I'm saying. And this is one of those. This is a movie that sort of sets the tone and lets you live in it for a little bit. And I like that. There's also the theme of underdog. I do think it's a very fun theme to kind of explore, especially these days, but also in the 80s. I think that there is a blatantness to the way that they explore their themes that I think could be really frustrating. Having it be literally just like kids versus full-blown neo-Nazis right now could be a little on the nose, especially these days. And there are moments where they make comments about like, man, yeah, we were dealing with this in the 70s. It's 1987. We should be past that by now. Which is obviously a pointed thing too. We should be past that by now. And you know what? And I understand the irony of me saying this because I kind of look like one of the bad guys in the first segment of the movie. Yeah, we should have figured that out by now. It's crazy that that's a concern at this point. This video isn't about me making a political statement, nor do I intend to, but I don't think it's a particularly political statement to say, yeah, don't be a racist shitbag. This movie wears its themes pretty strongly, pretty heavily, and I think that's fun. I think that works generally for the most part. I think they do a good job of making it feel nuanced enough that it's not just beating you over the head with it. And also, the movie isn't inherently interested in exploring those themes very far, so they don't have to be particularly deep. Part of the fun of this movie is that, yes, it's about underdogs. Yes, it's about rising up against tyranny and against evil. But it's also just about a cool kind of Blade-looking guy doing cool kind of Blade-like shit. This isn't intended to be a statement piece in the sense that it's not really trying to make a strong statement. It is against racism and horrible things, and it is for cool kick-ass violence. And guess what? So am I, you know? And I think that's a very okay thing for a movie to be. I think there's a part of me that was trying to make this be more. Part of me that wanted this to have a statement, to be a film, to be intentionally directing in some way. And the movie just regularly reminds you that it's not that, and it's not trying to be that. It's just having a good time telling these stories, just living life in a fictional 1987 Oakland, California, where crazy stuff can happen at any given time. And I like that. I'm into that vibe. A few things I want to highlight just really quick as positives. They mention a couple of times, they hint around the idea of Tom Hanks. There are several times where they say like, oh yeah, you know the guy from Splash used to sell hot dogs at this stadium? Or like, oh yeah, I know his other movies. We watched The Burbs, or I think it was, maybe it's Money Pit. We watched Money Pit. Anyway, they mentioned the idea of Tom Hanks a lot in this movie, and he's in it. He's in this movie in easily my favorite just overall scene from the film, because he plays the clerk at the video store. Pedro Pascal walks in, and it was this weird surreal moment where I was like, I don't think I had ever conceived of the idea of Pedro Pascal and Tom Hanks being in a scene together, much less had I conceived of the idea of Pedro Pascal playing a general Pedro Pascal type, and Tom Hanks playing just a weaselly little shithead at a video store. I think there is so much fun to be had in that character, and this movie uses every ounce of that fun. He's going down the list of what he thinks are the top underdog movies, and just fully ignoring that Pedro Pascal might even slightly have anything else to do for the rest of his day. I think that is an inherently fun setup for a scene, and they play it perfectly. The tone of that scene is so funny because he is just not listening. He's making judgment calls. He is also playing a character that we've never really seen, at least that I remember Tom Hanks play. Maybe he has, but I don't think I've ever seen him be this just kind of like annoying guy that you just sort of have to listen to. I've always thought of him as like this loving, caring person that you always want to pay close attention to and respect and absorb everything he's saying. I don't think I've ever seen him just be like really annoying and just like a really frustrating person to be around. So it's very fun to see that. It also leads into a very cool idea, that of a series of code phrases by way of movie titles that gets you into this back gambling room. All of it is really fun. I just really like that he's in this, and it's very funny. He also has a pretty funny gag at the end, like blooper at the end of the movie. I don't really have anything else to say about that other than Tom Hanks is in this movie, and that's very funny to me. Also, Ben Mendelsohn is in this movie, and he's just insane. I mean, just like the way that he delivers lines in this is crazy. He is going full maximalist in this movie that is generally maximalist, but not completely. I think there are moments. Pedro Pascal is playing in a non-maximalist section of this movie, and so when he kind of runs into the maximalist portions of it, he's like as surprised as we are. Ben Mendelsohn is maybe the catalyst of all the maximalism in this movie, and boy, does he really play it. He is the worst guy. He's the worst guy you've ever seen in your whole life, and he really seems to enjoy playing that character in a way that I am a little concerned about. But like, specifically, there's like, I don't know why, but I get these moments where like a specific line read will just live in my head for some reason and just play over and over and over. For some reason, the way that Ben Mendelsohn he's talking about his like Nazi son and his friends, and he just goes like, good kids, fine people. I don't know why, but the way that he delivers that line is so funny to me, and it just really has stuck with me. Ben Mendelsohn is disgusting in this, and he's really, really good. He does just a wonderful job. I also really quick just want to highlight Dominique Thorne, who was also Ironheart in the Ironheart show and Wakanda Forever. She is in this as one of the members of Danger Zone. Their segment was not my favorite. It's fine. It's a cool, like, it adds to the texture of what the green lightning and green mist and green glow. But it doesn't necessarily play in a way that feels satisfying, and also their arc feels like the most cuttable of the arcs from the movie. That said, it is really fun, and it gives the movie its own bespoke little theme song, so how upset can we really be about that? But Dominique Thorne, she plays it really well. She is very good as this character. I also want to highlight Jay Ellis, I think is his name, the guy who plays Sleepy. Maybe that green drink goes a little harder than I thought. The guy who plays Sleepy Floyd, there we go, finally. He is exceptional in this, and I honestly don't know if I've seen him in anything else. I'd like to look that up later. But I loved him, and I think he played this perfectly. He also really delivers on the action scenes, so get him in more stuff, even if he's already in stuff. Get him in more stuff. He would be, and I understand the irony of this, he would be a great Blade if Marvel ever decides to do that. Also, final thing that I just want to really quick highlight, just as a general positive of the movie. There's a moment that didn't strike me as funny until the second watch, because it is a very emotional moment. It's a moment that I've highlighted out, and I'm calling Cuss Doctor in my notes, because Pedro Pascal receives a call letting him know that his child survived. His wife has died, but his child is alive, and he can come pick her up. And it's this beautiful moment where you're like, you experience this relief on him, and also this internal dread of knowing that like, oh, that means he has something to lose, and he just like upstaged the guy, and so it's like, it could be a really bad situation. Anyway, it is very funny to me, especially the second time, because the call that he receives the doctor is just so unprofessional. He like picks up the call, and he's like, hello, and he's like, oh, Pedro, holy shit, Jesus Christ, you gotta come over here. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, your fucking daughter, she's alive, god damn it, she's fucking alive. There's a lot of good to this movie. There's a lot of things that work really well. I think overall the film is generally pretty successful at what it attempts to do. That said, there are some things that don't work, and I think it's worth acknowledging in all art, in all criticism, the things that don't work. So a couple of things that don't inherently work about this movie. The first and foremost, and I think this is possibly a pro, possibly a con, but generally leans a little bit toward con, is that it wears its influences very, very strongly on its sleeve. It's hard to find originality in the movie outside of just a different story, because most of the movie is referencing things like Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Repo Man, The Matrix a little bit. It's Scanners, Scanners is even name dropped, and Ben Mendelsohn. By the way that Ben Mendelsohn dies, another good thing is that he explodes through psionics, through this like mental manipulation of the green energy. Bitch. Of the green energy. And it's very funny. It's a great effect. It's a wonderful effect. Really well done. Also, just really nice to see the worst guy you've ever seen get exploded. But this is a movie that wears its references very, very strongly on its sleeve. And it can be, again, I'm torn calling it even a negative, because it can be a really good thing. Things like the bus glowing green and flying around like it's the end of Repo Men. When it's a subtle reference to a lesser known thing, I think it's a really sweet little homage and a fun thing. When it's a much more blatant Kill Bill, Pulp Fiction type reference to a thing that literally everyone in America has seen at least twice, it plays a little bit nostalgia baity, and I don't know if that's just familiarity or if that's that it's played differently. I'm not entirely sure where that lands, but it can lean a little bit too referential for my taste. And I think the other thing that doesn't totally work about this movie is just that it's not inherently cohesive. It does its best to be like a really well-crafted, brought together kind of thing, and I talked earlier about that overarching theme of, I can't say it because I've been drinking a little too fast, but the overarching theme, and then also like having the underarching theme of the underdogs. I think those two things work really well. But also, like I mentioned with the Danger Zone piece, some of these things don't feel important to the movie. It feels like just a kind of random side story. So it's a lot of really cool ideas, a lot of really cool collections of thoughts and fun ideas and fun things to try that all come together to be, I would say, just about the sum of its parts. If you're down for the collection of really crazy fun ideas, I think that works very well, and I think that it is that. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. It's a creative, unique movie that feels like its own thing. It feels like a strong, powerful piece of work, but all of the things that it's pulling from are pretty strong, pretty evident, and so while it feels unique in the sense that we've never seen all of those things together, it doesn't feel unique in that it feels like it's adding anything necessarily. This isn't a groundbreaking film. This isn't a particularly memorable... we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I've been thinking about it for a while, I guess, so maybe that's not true. But it doesn't feel where, like... What's a good example? Like Sinners. Sinners from this year is a movie that I watched and has stuck with me since I watched it, and then I watched it again the other day, and it has stuck with me since then, and it's a movie that it feels important. It feels weighty. It feels like it accomplishes something and has something to say outside of it being a vampire movie. This doesn't necessarily feel like it has a lot to say outside of being a fun collection of stories from 1987 Oakland that all happen to be centered around this weird green glow thing. So there is that side of it, and that kind of leads me to my overall thoughts. Real quick, my favorite moment of the movie that I've already talked about is Ben Mendelsohn exploding, because it is just a radically powerful effect. And it's just very fun, and it's kind of the climax of probably the coolest action sequence in a very long time. Like, it might not be the most well executed action sequence, but it has the most aura. This thing is just dripping with kick-assery, and I think that is really fun. Freaky Tales is a movie that I am conflicted about in the sense that, well, A, it's not really a horror movie. There are horror moments, but it's not really a horror movie, so I'm conflicted in bringing it to the series, but we're too deep in the paint, so we're doing it anyway. But B, I'm conflicted because it feels like there should be a little extra depth that just kind of isn't there for me, at least on this watch. And maybe there will be later on. But it is a very fun movie. It's a very exciting movie. And maybe it's okay for it to just be that. I think engaging with art based on what you're given is more important than engaging with art that you hope it is. So I think there's a part of me that is trying to make this something that it isn't. I do highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. If you have, what did you think of Freaky Tales? What were your thoughts? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments below. And also, I gotta remember what we're doing. Look forward to our next movie on the Halloween Horror Club. A strange call that I've made, and I'm just now remembering it. Hocus Pocus. Look forward to my review of Hocus Pocus, a movie I have only seen 20 minutes of, not even, and I didn't like. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Halloween Horror Club. If you like this video and would like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, horror movies, Green Lightning, oh, sorry, hang on. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you would like me to review next, or do none of those things because I truly am not your dad.